What's up, YouTube? So in this video we're gonna do the flames design. We start off by balding out the initial line. It's basically like if you're balding out your first guideline all around. Make sure it's the same in symmetry on both sides, that way your fade comes out balanced on both sides at the end of the haircut. I'm using my gamma and we're laying down the first guideline, taking off all the bulk from the bottom. Do it on the other side. These are my favorite trimmers for sure, the gammas. Alright, so now we start off by carving in the flame. The secret to the flame design is to make it have flow. So instead of making straight lines, you start making them curved, and then you make them go to like a fine point at the end. So the first one I made it small. The second one I made it a little bit bigger. I added another flame. And another key is to like make patterns, because if everything was the same flame all around, it would be super boring. So I started to create a pattern. So the first one was small, the second one was bigger, and then I added another flame to it, and then the third one was small again, and the fourth one I'm gonna do it big with two flames again, and so on. That way it doesn't get boring to the eye to watch, because at the end of the day your haircut is art. People are looking at your haircut, people are analyzing your haircut, and the more you treat it like art, the more people are gonna stay and look. Especially on Instagram, people are scrolling. It has to catch people's attentions right away. Yeah, so the whole key to this is to start making the design flow. And now we start off on the second side. We open our lever all the way, probably like an inch high. And my secret to fading is honestly to leave enough darkness for the fade to contrast. We want the fade to stand out as much as possible. For example, have you guys seen a grading before? The grading goes from really light to dark. It's like a contrast. That's what we want in our fades. So we go over the whole section a bunch of times, then we slap on our 1.5, start fading another line in, then our 3/16, and all that ridge you guys see on top, we leave it and we clip over comb it to retain the darkness. That way our fade can stand out a lot. And we're gonna connect that fade all the way to the other side into the flame. Alright, so now we're balding out the bottom with the gammas. These are probably my favorite to bald out. They have some nice teeth and they're nice and gapped. That way we make this process fast. Now we take our shaver, and I make sure that the shaver gets every single speckle. So when you run your finger on top of the skin, you have to be able to not feel any speckle at all. That way your client feels nice and clean. Now the key to a fade, to get it super blurry, is to corner. Every spot that you see that has like a darker area, you corner it. And my bad if I go back and forth. So I go back and forth with doing the design and then doing the other side and then balding out. I do that because I don't want to focus too much on one side and then forget that I still need to finish the other side. So everything I do in the system, I do a little bit of each. That way at the end I can just go back and detail it. For example, I do the rough sketch on one side, do some of it, and then go to the other side, and then come back. And it might be confusing for some of you at the beginning, but once you mastered all the basics and you have your system in place, I feel like it's better if you do it this way, because at the end of the day it's a business. And like me, for a haircut design, I can probably take like an hour to an hour 15, no more than that, because time is money, you know. Like an hour 15 still allows you to do a great job. That way you create a masterpiece, you know. Alright, so now we continue to do the flame design, and make sure you retain the flow. And as we get to the back, I start doing the flames smaller and smaller until they disappear into the fade that we are going to connect to it. Alright, so we continue to bald out the other side of the head. Make sure you go over it a bunch of times. That way you get all the stubble out, and when you use the photo shaver, it's easier for the photo shaver to grab the rest of the hair, so you can make it nice and squeaky like a baby's bottom. And I always swap different machines. Oh, this is the Fade Lab. This is the barbershop that we work at. The lab where all the scientists cut. And right here I'm starting to fade out. I'm starting to connect both sides with the fade. So that last flame is, that last 3 flames are gonna fade out into the rest of the fade coming from the right side of the head. And the fade starts off, so when it connects to the last 3 flames, the fade is actually getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So the back side of the head is like middle, and then when it starts coming back to the left side, it starts getting smaller, and then the right side, that's where the big fade is at. So the big fade is fading into the smaller fade. I couldn't find any other way to connect this, so that was the only thing I thought of at the moment to connect both sides. Alright, so right here we're using the photo shaver to blend it into the guideline we made with the trimmer. And all I'm doing here is worrying about the little speckles. That way they're all even, and at the end of the haircut it looks blurry. It won't look too harsh of a harsh line, because we're blending in such a small area. So I'm using a lot of the corner technique. And now to get those hairs that are poking out, I'll grab my clipper or comb, and what the comb is doing is making all those little hairs stand out that are longer than the rest. And all you're doing is literally just running them over with the clipper. Now we're detailing, make sure it's nice and crispy, and then once we have the rough sketch and everything's ready to go, we put some shaving cream. That way when you run it with the straight blade, it won't get irritated. And the key here is to pull the skin and make it nice and tight. That way the blade glides with ease. So all I'm doing is going over what I already did and making it a little bit thicker. That way the design stands out a little bit more. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you guys learned something from this video, please give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe, because we're coming out with a bunch of videos soon. Here's the final result: the flames design on the left side, and then transitions to the right side. Peace out, YouTube.